Hello, gaming geeks. This is the old gaming geezer. And today I'm performing some scientific experiments to get some sweet science points so that I can unlock some new technology. So what you're seeing here is Bill Kerman, and Bill is doing a suborbital flight to the polar regions of Kerbal. The ship is packed with scientific packages attached to a little lander just below the crew capsule there. And we're getting our trajectory over the main continent of Kerbin. And we're flying over the surface. And we've got our trajectory now to bring us down in the polar regions. So flying over Kerbin, Bill attempts to do some experiments. But unfortunately, we already have all of the science we can get from near Kerbal orbit. And now, let's see. You can see the mountains off in the distance. Snow-capped mountains passing underneath us. The stars are falling. Are falling? The stars. Oh my god, the stars are moving across the sky above us. And the polar ice caps come in over the horizon now. Bill tries to do a few more experiments. He gets his rocket into position. He's going to do a quick slowing down maneuver, because he doesn't want to overshoot the pole. Not that he's going to overshoot the pole anyway, but here we go. We're going to do our maneuver now. Any second. Any second. There we go. The ice flowing underneath us. Bill drops the rocket stage. There we see our lander. Bill attempts a little science. Drops the landing gear. And any minute now, we're going to start shooting downwards. Downwards, the ground is coming up to meet us. Coming up to meet us. And now, shooting through the fiery hell that is re-entry, the speed of the ship slamming into the air, compressing it, creating the fiery plasma. Bill deploys the parachutes, and the ground is rising up to meet him at an alarming 4 times acceleration rate. Oh, there goes the rocket stage smashing into the ice. Unfortunately, we didn't get a shot of that, but it happened just off camera. So Bill slowly comes to a rest on the frozen wastes of the Kerbal North Pole. Time to do some science. First of all, we observe the materials bay. The water is frozen solid, and the goopy material appears to be extra goopy. We observe the mystery goo. Bill prepares and sends a quick crew report. Back to the boys in the lab, and observes some more mystery goo. Bill then gets out of the ship, quick crew report. Drops down to the surface with a splat and takes an ice sample from this frozen tundra. This is really solid ground, is it? Bill plants a flag. Bill's the first, I believe. It says, Bill on the pole. Oh, and he's still riding. It's a bit chilly up here. Yes, it is. Well, you're on the poles. Oh, what's he saying now? Luckily, Bill wore his thermal thong. Well, let's not have a conversation about Bill Kerman's underwear preferences. I've decided that I will have a goal through this playthrough of KSP. I intend to do an STS-style space program. To do this, I need to learn to build and fly planes. Right now, though, even though the Kerbals have developed the technology to build large rockets and send Kerbals to the moon and bring them home safely, they still have not developed the technology to create wheels, so I have no landing gear on this plane. As a result, we shall be using metal trusses as landing gear. That seems like an intelligent solution to the problem, don't you think? So Bill hits the throttle and immediately things start to go wrong. He pancakes, loses some of the aircraft, almost recovers, and then fiery death. Well, almost. It looks as though Bill has survived. So, while Bill is off getting a checkup, Kerbin Kerman, new astronaut recruit and test pilot extraordinaire, will be testing the latest aircraft iteration, complete with metal truss-based landing gear. Oh dear, as Kerbin contemplates the fate of Bill's unfortunate test flight, he feels confident, though, that he's ready to step up to this challenge. And off he goes. But again, the plane wobbles a little bit. and slides off to the side of the runway on those wonderful metal trusses. But it does indeed manage to get airborne. Yes, however, Shepard has lost part of his landing gear. But that's okay. The boys back in the lab have told him that so far his flight is a success. He's up. We'll worry about the landing gear when it's time to land. For now, Shepard needs to test the flight characteristics of this new plane. In the distance, he sees the island with the dirt landing strip and contemplates that it may be a good idea to try to land his damaged plane there. But the boys back in the lab point out that they don't have the technology to build boats to go out and get him. Planes, but not boats. Rockets, but not landing gear. So Shepard brings the plane around, slowly trying to figure out just how much he can push this plane. He does some small experimental maneuvers as he brings the plane around in an attempt to land back at the Kerbal Space Center. Because of the lack of some form of method, or maybe rolling along the ground as opposed to sloughing into it, truss first, Shepard decides a soft landing on the grass might be a good thing, and then he could walk away. So he brings the plane down slowly, watching his shadow underneath him. He's going down, and he flares just before touchdown, and boom! More fiery death. The plane disintegrates around Shepard, but it looks like he survived. As he gets out of the plane, Shepard begins to contemplate the idea that maybe any landing you survive is probably a good landing. So he does a little EVA report to take home with him. And then he gets back into the plane, if he can, and prepares another report from inside. It's all looking good. And so next up we have Lemuel Kerbin testing out a new airplane with a twin engine design, and as it noses over we can see that we still only have metal trusses to use as landing gear. So Lemuel manages to get the plane up into the air very, very well with no damage whatsoever, although he wobbles like crazy. Lemuel looks to be a little bit scared in the cockpit, but, well, it's a whole new spacecraft design, or aircraft design, should I say. And it's looking pretty good. Look, it's got those wings. It kind of reminds me of a mosquito. A de Havilland mosquito. Look it up on Wikipedia. So he's flying around there and he's looking at the island and he thinks, you know what, we're going to go out to the island. So he flies in towards the island at 4 times time acceleration. The plane is wobbling like crazy, but he's got it. He's got it. He cuts his engines. He's gliding in. He's flaring as he approaches. Cut back to regular time acceleration. He flares the engine, bringing it down, and we're hovering. Oh no! Boom. Smashy, smashy death. Fiery, fiery death. But it looks like Lemuel has survived. The plane looks to be in very bad condition, but Lemuel looks okay. He's got a little smile on his face. He pops out of the airplane, does a little quick EVA report, and he sees the aerodrome over there, and he runs over to have a look. There's a big, huge tower there, and decides to plant a flag. So he plants a flag. And what important things can we say here in this historic occasion? Lemuel on the island of Tanagra. Looks like his arms wide. Looks like Lemuel watches himself some Star Trek. Yes, he does. And his plane smashed. Yes, well, Lemuel, your plane is indeed smashed. But that's because you crashed it. And so Lemuel looks like he's going to head back towards his plane. With his little walk. He gets a little look. There he is. So, now we're back to Shepard, who's testing out another new airplane, another new twin-engine airplane that noses over again. Looking good. It's sliding along the runway. It's about to go into the air, and oh no! It looks like we've lost Shepard. Yep, Shepard is now officially on the missing in action list. They never found his body. They never found a trace of him, not even a smear on the runway. Oh no. So we're looking at the Final Frontier stats, or we're trying to, but it doesn't work in the astronaut lounge. Shep and Kerbin, one mission. EVA surface ribbon, collision ribbon. Oh, he collided. Oh no. Well, he's gone. Shepin is dead. He is dead. Oh, after only one successful mission. Or did he have two? I can't remember. So Lemuel is now taking Shepin's ill-fated plane on a new flight. Now, as you can see, Lemuel looks very, very, very uncomfortable in that cockpit, but he's taken off. He's in the air. There's nothing crazy going on here. The plane is handling extremely well. It's flying very level. He's going to bring it around as we increase our time acceleration. We have a look at it from inside the cockpit. He's flying out. He's flying towards the mountains, and he sees something on his HUD. So he's going to go out there and take a look. The boys in the lab are going, you know, Lemuel, where are you going, Lemuel? He's flying out. This is the location of the landing of Jebediah and Bob when Jebediah was stuck on the moon, and Bob had to come down and pick him and get him. And this is where they landed. It's a historical first landing from another planet. So Lemuel goes out there and has a look, and then he turns back and starts heading back home. This plane is handling really, really well. It's got those B9 Aerospace engines and the B9 Aerospace tailplane. The rest of the parts, I believe, are stock parts. Yes, those trusses are indeed stock parts. So Lemuel brings this in, and he's coming in for a landing straight onto the runway. Everything is looking good. He's throttling back. He's coming in pretty hot. Coming in pretty high, actually. He's coming in quite slowly, actually. And he's bringing it in. He's over the runway. He flares, brings the aircraft down for a smooth landing. That is amazing. Lemuel, you are a new Kerbal hero. You may have earned your astronaut patch for doing that. Yep. Yeah, you walk around that airplane. Yeah. Excellent. That might be my icon for this video. So now I'm launching this large rocket and going back to the moon, but this time I'm doing an unmanned launch. I'm using the Stay Putnik probe body to launch something into lunar orbit. Now, what am I launching into lunar orbit? I'm launching a Kethane probe. I'm going to scan the lunar surface for the green Kethane to power my spaceships. I've never used the Kethane mod before. It looks really good. I've seen it in other videos, seen other people using it, and I'm looking forward to having a go of it myself. So this is my first playthrough with Kethane, and there I am getting into orbit. I'm going to drop my launch stage. Bye-bye launch stage. Here's me setting up my maneuver to get into the moon and getting my ship into place. Now, if you don't know what the Kethane mod is, the Kethane mod is a resource gathering mod. It allows you to scan planets for the sweet green of Kethane, and you have mining ships that can mine the Kethane and transfer it into rocket fuel or oxidizer or monopropellant fuel, as far as I recall. And so I'm going to try and use this Kethane mod to get cheap fuel from the moon. Now you can see I'm screwing around with my maneuver nodes there because, to be honest, I kind of messed up this launch, but I managed to get into a polar lunar orbit. I had to play around with it quite a lot to get that to work because I am not very good at this game. Yes, orbital mechanics is something that I only have a very vague understanding of. So there we are. We're in we're doing our lunar capture orbit now. Capture burn, should I say now, and we're going to activate our Kethane scanner and let the scanning begin. Something weird happened there, so we're scanning for Kethane. I need to turn on the overlay, and there we go. We're scanning for Kethane. Each of those little white hexagons means that there is no Kethane in that sector. And so we're scanning for Kethane. And scanning for Kethane. And we're scanning for... There's some Kethane. The little green hexagons are Kethane. And so we're scanning for Kethane. So we're setting up another Kethane scanner now, not to Not to scan more on the moon, because, you know, well, we could scan faster on the moon if we had a second probe. But you know what? I'm going to send one out to Minmus. Because Minmus is out there, and it's actually easier to land and take off from Minmus. So I think it's probably a better place to do Kethane mining. So here's me launching my second Kethane scanner, the Minman Kethane scanner. And it's off into orbit right now. There it is, burning away. There we are, we're putting it into a orbit around Kerbin. Burning off the last of our fuel. And there we are. So here we are, we're setting up a maneuver node to get us out to Minmus. I have already done a plane change maneuver. I'm doing the plane change maneuver in the burn, which is probably not the most efficient way of doing it, but you know what? I'm doing it anyway. And so we're maneuvering around to get onto our node. The ship is quite big and quite slow. So what you're seeing here is all 4 times time acceleration. So we're trying to find our node. There it is. Getting onto our node. We're on our node and we're about to start burning. There we go. So we drop our launch stage now and we're on our transfer stage. We're on our way out to Minmus. Now here you see the worst maneuver that you've ever seen. I've overshot it. So I've got to turn my ship around and slow myself down a little bit again. And so now we've got our Minman encounter, and I'm screwing up I'm turning the ship around and trying to get a proper Minmus encounter, but I'm really making pains of that particular launch, of that particular burn. So I'm trying to save the situation here with those little burns. I like to call that manlying myself into orbit. So now we're on our way out to Minmus, and there you can see it flickering off in the distance. We're getting closer and closer. Closer and closer. And I realize at this point that I'm not going to go into a polar orbit around Minmus, and I need to be in one. So here's me messing around with the maneuver nodes to try and get into some sort of orbit. And then we see I've got plenty of fuel, so I know that I can get into a polar orbit. I did bring extra fuel on both of the Kethane probes for the exact reason that I'm really crap at this game. So I would need extra fuel to get myself into the orbits I need. So here's me changing my inclination to get around into a somewhat polar orbit. It doesn't have to be exact. And bring it around to do the burn. I'm using Kerbal alarm clock to set up my burns. And I totally messed that up. Look at it. I totally messed up that burn. So now, trying to manly this thing into a proper orbit here as best I can. I've just really made a balls of that one. And there's me spinning the ship around, trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. Setting up my maneuver node and waiting till we get to it, and then we burn. Burn like you've never burned before for a very short time. So now we're in an orbit that is not absolutely awful. Well, actually, it's in a highly eccentric orbit, so now we're bringing it back down into a more circular orbit. That's just me screwing around here, making loads of mistakes, not being able to play this game, and not understanding properly how orbital mechanics works, and thrust-to-weight ratio, and delta V, and all that kind of stuff. But finally we do it. And that's one of the reasons why it takes so long to do these videos, because I am terrible at this game. So here we are, scanning Minmus for that sweet, sweet Kethane. And I have to change the name of the ship because it was called the Mooner Kethane scanner. But now it's called a Minman Kethane scanner. So we're scanning for Kethane. And it takes a long time to scan for Kethane. So we scan. And I'm going too fast. And we scan. Scanning for Kethane. And we scan. And we discover. And we scan. And we scan. And we scan. This is the old gaming geezer signing off. Hit like below. Subscribe. Good night.